Hello and welcome to those two IM guys. Once again, I'm James Kennedy and I'm here with my co-host, Tony Earp. Tony, we're going to be talking about something really interesting and absolutely the foundations of running an online business. Tell us, Tony, what's it all about?
Hi, James. Hope you're well. And hello to our viewers and listeners. Basically, guys, yeah, as James said, it's the foundation of any online business and it's web hosting. That's what this particular show and episode is all about. And please don't underestimate how important this topic is, guys, because if you don't get this right at the beginning of your business, yeah. We've had this conversation before, James, isn't it? You wouldn't build a house on
sand
foundation, would you?
No, exactly. And that's exactly what you need, is solid foundations. And I've found that through trial and error through this process. So
yeah, and the reason I wanted to discuss this today is that I constantly get asked questions. Obviously, you know, I've got a hosting business myself. I constantly get asked questions about what type of hosting is best for me. Most people don't even realize that there's different types of hosting, James. Yeah. They just think web hosting is it. Hosting is a word and that's what they need. They don't understand there's different types for different needs, etc. Yeah.
Well, I always knew there was two types, ones that worked and ones that didn't. And that's pretty much as close as I got. And usually I didn't find the ones that I thought worked didn't, and I had to move to another one that didn't, and then eventually got one that worked.
Well, what I want for our viewers and listeners, especially anybody that's, you know, creating a new business online or starting out, etc., is that if you don't educate and do your research about your web hosting, it's not until something tragic happens and you lose everything or all your sites get hacked that you actually think, oh, I better look into this a little bit more. And by then it's too late, of course. Yeah. So absolutely. Hopefully this episode will open our viewers and listeners' eyes just that little bit more and educate them a bit better about the various web hosting that's available out there, the different types, you know, what they should be looking for to meet their needs, the considerations they need to take into account before they purchase, etc., etc. And then they can go off and do their research and do their due diligence. Yeah. So I think what I'm trying to say here, James, is that we're trying to save our viewers and listeners a lot of pain going forward. Yeah.
Well, I very much felt this with my tourism business website, and I got hacked drastically, so much so that the website had to be pulled down completely and rebuilt from scratch, and it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's a common story, unfortunately, James. I hear it all the time, and that's generally, you know, price isn't everything. It's a consideration, but I think one thing we can agree on is that the cheapest option isn't always the best option. Definitely that's not. For sure. And the common denominator between everybody I see getting hacked is that they choose the cheap version. And if you have that mentality to buying your hosting, guys, trust me, you will pay the price down the line. That's way more than the cost of buying better quality hosting up front. Yeah.
And I thought the one that I got was pretty decent as well. I thought it was obviously a big name.
You know? Yeah, and it's deceiving, James, because what happens is a lot of companies get bought out. And I think I know the company you're talking about.
A lot of teeth.
Yeah. Initials HG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very big company, but they were bought out a few years ago because, you know, total transparency, in the early days, I had some hosting with that particular company. They got took over, and overnight, it was noticeable that everything had changed.
Well, I was hacked to death, and then
I had sites hacked myself.
But they had a great company on the other side that they could get it all fixed for me for so many hundreds of dollars.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was like it was almost like it was planned.
Oh, hey. You know,
I can't prove that, but
yeah,
it just felt as if,
you know, let's not go down that road in this episode. That'll be another conversation for another day.
Yeah, but it was just quite strange how.
But let's just say it'd be a great way if somebody did that for generating a lot of revenue very quickly, wouldn't it?
Certainly would be.
But yeah, I had sites hacked myself with that particular hosting. I would never ever go back there. I learned my lesson. So this episode again is to make sure you learn yours now rather than at that point when you're hacked and everything else, because security with your hosting is a big topic, guys, and we're going to touch on that further in this episode. Yeah,
let's do it.
Okay, so web hosting. What is your interpretation of web hosting, James? What's your definition of it? What is it?
There's a wizard somewhere that takes my website that I build and he holds it in the sky and he looks after it for me. Pretty much. Right, it's a big storage unit. And obviously my website is put on that site and then it's shared around the world and it's on a hard drive somewhere.
Right, okay. Well, I would think that your interpretation there, your definition of what web hosting is probably fairly common, yeah? And you're not incorrect. I mean, ultimately, it's big data centers that store all our files and our databases and everything else, and they have the infrastructure to make those sites live and share it around the globe, yeah? Okay. But there's different types of hosting for different types of businesses, and it really depends on your needs and your server resources requirements, yeah? The most common one, so that's number one, is shared hosting. That's the one most people will use, especially when they first start out in business, James. Mm-hmm. Is that what you use yourself?
I think it probably is. I'm with 20i.
Okay. Well, I think it's fair to say you've got a shared hosting plan with them, yeah?
Yeah.
And, you know, there's nothing wrong with shared hosting. It's perfect for an entry-level business, yeah? That's what it's designed for. Number two, we've got VPS hosting, which is virtual private server. Have you heard of that before yourself?
Yeah. I've heard of it. Okay. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, for anyone that isn't familiar with VPS, the best way to think about it is it's a middle ground, basically, between shared hosting and a dedicated server. Dedicated server would be the third type, yeah? VPS, you're not sharing the resources with as many websites as you are with shared hosting, James, yeah? With shared hosting, you could be sharing those server resources with hundreds, even thousands of other websites, yeah? But if you're a small business owner and you've only got a 5-page website that doesn't get a particularly lot of traffic, that's perfect type of hosting for you, yeah? Mm-hmm. If you're a slightly bigger business and you're getting more traffic and you need more server resources, then you need to be, you know, potentially looking at a VPS, yeah? Okay, so third one we mentioned, dedicated server hosting. Do you know what that is, James? I'm sure you do by the name of it.
Yeah, so it's literally your own little hard drive, your own little server, and it's only working for you and nobody else.
Yeah, there's only your sites, your files, your database is stored on there. You have complete control of all the resources on a dedicated server. It's as simple as that, yeah.
Is that something that you would buy yourself and look after, or is it still something you would use a big company for?
No, most companies that you get a dedicated server for will have two options where you can manage yourself or you can have a managed option. Unless you're really technical, you always go for the managed option, guys, yeah? Okay. Because you've got to know how, if you want to manage it yourself, you've got to understand how a server works. You've got to understand all the technical side of it. I don't. I'm sure you don't, James. So for me, whenever I need these resources, these services, I always go for the managed option. Takes that pressure right off me and puts it on somebody else's shoulders that actually have got the infrastructure and the staff to take care of all that, yeah? Mm-hmm. And there's usually not much of a difference in the cost either. But, you know, as we say all the time, whenever you need more resources or more of anything, it always comes at a price, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And
yeah,
I think sometimes when, again, a lot of our viewers and listeners, a lot of them are new businesses, they're startups, they're even maybe not even a business yet, they're still hovering about the kind of learning how to make money online kind of place right now. And, you know, you can't buy everything at the start, you know. Yeah. So shared hosting is obviously a good start to get you up and running. When you're making a little bit of money, move up to VPS, and then eventually a dedicated server when you really need that that personal.
And again, there's a lot of flexibility with all these types of hosting, James. All different hosting companies with shared hosting, with VPS, virtual private server hosting, and dedicated server hosting. They're going to have different plans at different price points to fit what you need, because there's no point paying for resources that your particular website or project is never going to use.
No, absolutely.
Just a waste of money. You could be using that money somewhere else in your business.
And I think it's important to kind of do your research to find the right company that's got all these assets, in my opinion, so that you can grow, they can grow with your business, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors to take into account and into consideration before you purchase. And this is where doing your research, doing your due diligence all comes into play, James. We're going to be touching on a few things that you really need to look out for when you're doing this research before you buy, a little bit later on in this episode. Yeah.
Okay.
So believe it or not, there is a fourth type of hosting, and it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment in the technology industry, and this is cloud hosting. And you'll have seen it. Probably the most famous one is Amazon Web Services. But again, unless you're really technical, guys, go for a managed option with this, because you will have problems otherwise if you're not if you're not at a certain technical level to be able to set everything up yourself. Yeah. Now, I've put number 5 as managed hosting, James, and most hosting packages, they will include some sort of managed hosting package. Yeah. With my own hosting business, particularly with WordPress, we offer managed and unmanaged packages.
Okay.
So the unmanaged are slightly cheaper, because if anything goes wrong, the responsibility is on the site owner to take care of that. If they want to pay a little bit more, they can go for the managed option. And if there's a technical issue, we will take care of that and guide them how to sort the problem out, or even sort the problem out for them.
Can I ask you a question, Tony? Obviously,
of course, yeah.
Do you offer all these options as well within your business?
Yes.
Shared, VPS?
Yeah, dedicated, everything, yeah.
Excellent. No, I was just curious.
Yeah, and with the managed and unmanaged, as I've already said previously, there's very little, there is a difference in price, but when you compare it to you not having the stress if something happens and passing that responsibility onto somebody else who's got the infrastructure and the staff to take care of it quickly for you, the price is negligible, in my opinion, James. Yeah.
Yeah. No, just curious. I wasn't sure if you offered those services.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we offer shared, VPS, dedicated, cloud, everything basically. Domains, the whole works is the best way I can explain it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so yeah, with the managed hosting, guys, basically the provider looks after the day-to-day management of the server, all the resources and everything else. So it's hands-free for you. You don't have to do anything, except obviously go into, if you want to edit anything on your website, then you would just log into the back end or log into the admin area and do that yourself. But anything on the technical side of things is managed by the provider. Yeah. So, James, I hear you asking the question, which is the best hosting for me?
Tony, which is the best hosting for me?
Yeah, I hear you asking that question, James.
You must be a psychic.
Before we do that, just let me get a quick drink here.
I'm saying you must be a psychic. I didn't even ask it yet.
Well, I'm going to just break those hosting types down a little bit further, okay? So let's start with shared hosting. It's the most cost-effective option for low traffic websites. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but that would relate to a lot of my personal websites. I'm sure it relates to a lot of your websites as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My websites are not big websites,
Yeah. And again, with the managed hosting option, it's ideal for non-technical users who'd rather defer the more technical stuff to somebody else. Sorry, go on. Is that you? Yeah.
So that's me.
Yeah, I'm not even joking. I mean, I've got a hosting business and that's me as well. But fortunately, I've got people that are technical that take care of all that. Yeah. Now, again, we've already mentioned VPS hosting. Simply, this is the best option for websites that have outgrown shared hosting. Yeah. So if you're on a shared hosting plan and you find you're hitting all your resource limits, because most shared hosting plans, as you'll know, James, they do have a fair usage policy, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And that, you know, depending on what plan you use, you will have limits on your
It's
individual
quite funny.
plan.
They do say unlimited, a lot of them, but then in tiny brackets, within reason type thing, you know.
Yeah, guys, unlimited does not mean unlimited. Trust me when I say this, every hosting company will have a fair usage policy. And James, if you exploit that consistently, what will happen?
They will remove your website.
Yes, they will disable everything. They will delete your account even, yeah?
And then you
They
are
will
left
give
high
you
and dry.
they'll take all your websites off being live, and they will give you a period of time to remove them to a different hosting provider. But trust me, you don't want to be in that position, guys, yeah? So stick within your plan limits. Do not abuse your hosting. Simple as that. Now, we mentioned cloud hosting. Now, that works best for websites that are growing rapidly, James, and need scalable resources, yeah?
Okay.
Now, you know, the best example I can give of that is an e-commerce website where you're constantly adding new inventory, new products to the site. You may need to scale those resources very quickly, and cloud hosting will allow you to do that, yeah?
Right. And obviously there is no penalty there. They just change the costs, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you basically, again, you've got different plans and different prices depending on the provider. And I'm going to put some recommended providers in the recommended resources on our website, James, for our viewers and listeners to go and check out. You know, what I'm going to put in there isn't exhaustive. Do your own research, you know, do your own due diligence, but it's companies aside from my own that I've used in the past that I can recommend. Yeah. Yeah. And the other type of websiting, the other type of web hosting we discussed, but I'm getting tongue tied there, James.
Have a drink of tea.
trying to speak too fast. Is dedicated hosting. Now, it is the most expensive option, but it's mainly for large websites where you need to be in control of everything. Yeah. Makes sense, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. You know, and
again, it doesn't have to be a website. It could be a software that you're hosting, an app, or anything. A lot of those types of projects and large websites will need a dedicated server. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. I think everybody thinks hosting is just for websites, but again, if you've got a kind of an online based software, you know, a cloud based software where you can access it from your phone and do things here and there, it needs to be hosted. You know, it's not just websites.
Yeah, I mean, you know, typically most people, as you say, they will just think of hosting for websites, but everything you ever use on the internet, guys, is hosted somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah? Absolutely.
And it's key to remember that. So it doesn't matter whether it's a video you watch, whether it's a software you use, whether it's an image you see, all of that stuff, all that media is hosted somewhere. Yeah. I think people forget that, James, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's, as I say, it seems to be one of those kind of projects where hosting is probably the silent big brother of everything online. Nobody really hears about the hosting. Nobody talks about the hosting. Hosting's not sexy. You know, it's not the latest gadget or the latest widget or whatever it is, or plugin. But you know what? Without the hosting, you've got nothing online. Absolutely nothing.
No,
you know?
And it really is the foundation of any online business. If you're starting out, guys, and you're not taking the time to really compare providers, do your research, we use these words, due diligence, James, a lot, but it really is key. Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
If you're not doing those things before you purchase your hosting, trust me, somewhere down the line, something catastrophic is going to happen, and you're going to wish you'd listened to this particular episode on the content in it. Me and James are trying to save you some pain points here, guys, because trust me, it's happened to James, it's happened to me, it's happened to most people that we know. At some point, they have had a site or something hacked. And when you've got to get that fixed, trust me when I say this, and I'm sure James will back me up in a few seconds' time, it's a nightmare to get it sorted out, yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, my website was down for months, and at the time it was when like tourism would have been booking in its strongest, and it really, really affected me without a doubt.
Yeah, I've got a particular friend of mine who hosted a lot of websites on the provider we mentioned earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had 50 plus websites.
Wow.
And every single one of them got hacked. So that took down his complete network, James.
Full network.
Which meant his network wasn't generating any leads because he was a lead generator, yeah, for a particular niche. So his network wasn't generating any leads, which means he had no leads to sell his customers, and he had no income until he got it all sorted out. All his sites were WordPress. He had no backups. He just assumed that the service provider, the hosting company, were backing up his websites. Guess what, guys? No. They don't do that unless you pay for it extra.
Yeah.
You have to manually back your sites up yourself.
And I was going to say to you, you know, I mean, this presumption thing is a big problem because a lot of people bury their head in the sand when they start a business. And, oh, I don't really want to do that. That looks like work. I'm going to pretend I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But believe me, if you don't do the work.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of denial, James, as well. People think it'll never happen to me. It'll never happen to me. But guess what?
It happened to me. It's happened to you.
It can
It'll
equally
happen to you eventually. If it doesn't happen now.
Yeah. The percentage chance of it happening to anybody else, as well as you and me, James, is equal, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean,
you know, trust me, hackers don't think, oh, that looks a nice guy, I won't hack him.
Yeah, James is a good guy. We won't hack him. You know,
yeah, I like Tony. He's a bit of a git.
Yeah. Hack Tony. He's a miserable old bugger.
Yeah, guys, they don't work like that. They're non-discriminatory. They don't care.
No. Whether
it's your livelihood, whether it's not your livelihood, whether it's a hobby, they don't care. They will just hack you because they can.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So,
and incidentally, I went from that.
Hear this warning, yeah. Even with my own hosting business, James, we have the option where the client stroke customer can back up their sites themselves manually, daily, weekly, monthly, however long. All they've got to do is log into their account, and they can back up their websites manually.
Yeah.
But we do have an automated option, which costs a few pounds extra each month.
Mm-hmm.
Or a few dollars extra each month, depending where you are in the world.
Yeah.
But then it's automated. You can't forget because it doesn't matter whether you forget.
You don't do it. It's not
no, because we take care of all that. And it's the same it'll be the same with every other hosting provider that charges you for this backup service. Mm-hmm. It's all automated. You don't have to even think about it because it's taken care of in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's be honest, guys. I mean, if you're listening to this show or you're watching this show right now, this is not an exciting subject, right? But what we are all about is giving you the hard facts on the stuff that you need to know. I mean, when we're talking about some sexy stuff on here, you know, you're going to be loving it. But see this right now. This, for most people, will be painful to watch. And, you know, and it's not because we're trying to bore you to death. We just want you to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that we have done in the past. Yeah. You know, so from that point of view, don't think, oh, gosh, are they ever going to stop talking about hosting? Please don't think like that. Right now, this is probably some of the best education that you will get online, because if you start building a house of cards, it's going to fall flat on its face and you're going to lose a shed load of money or you're going to have to do a shed load of work again to rebuild it properly the next time round. You know, in all fairness, Tony, had we started off our podcasts, obviously, sessions or episodes with this first one, we probably would never have received another. Nobody would have ever watched another episode. Hence why we've left it quite a few. But it's one of those things that now you're kind of getting into the feel. You're getting the buzz. You're kind of following along with things. You know what things you're doing. You've possibly got hosting already. Now's the time to probably switch to something really solid if you've not done that already. If you've got something that's not solid, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said there, James. And again, what I would say to our viewers and listeners is whatever hosting you've got at the moment, go and revisit it, look at what exactly you've got, and look at the other options that are available out there.
Absolutely.
If you find a service that's better, guys, trust me, moving your sites or whatever content, whether it's a software, an app, or a website, whatever it is you want to move over to your new hosting, it's pain-free. Because most service providers, if you're moving to them, will offer a migration service.
Yeah, they do, and I love it because I did it, and it was so easy. I literally just told one of my companies, I said, listen, I'm moving. So my other guys, I had to ask for certain codes or certain things. And literally they gave, because I had so many domains and things, they sent me this full list, and I just sent it over to my guys. And I had a couple of hiccups. There was a couple that they missed out on. I had to go back and check them all.
Yeah.
In all fairness, we all kind of complete transparency. But I went and said, we never got that one. Oh, we never, right, okay, you've got it now, go get it. And that was us. We were sorted within a few days.
Yeah, most migration services offered by certainly the top providers are seamless, James. You know, you provide them with the necessary information as you did yourself in that instance, and they take care of everything. You won't even know it's moved. You know, everything's done in the background, and you know your sites stay live basically. Yeah.
And I've got like a shed load of websites and a shed load of domains. And it was just
and as you said, this isn't the most exciting topic in the world, but trust me when I say this to you, this episode, guys, is one of the most valuable ones that you need to listen to.
Absolutely.
Because what we're trying to do right now is give you some education, give you some valuable information and resources, and save you a ton of pain down the line, and hopefully save you some money.
Yeah, guaranteed it'll save you money.
If you've not compared the market, how do you know you've got the best deal?
Yeah.
You may have just gone for the first thing that you thought was the best deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we've already established, cheapest nearly always is not best.
Yeah. But again, something for an extra $2 or $3 might give you so many more facilities, you know, managed, etc., etc.
Yeah, and that extra $2 or $3 each month, James, to save you the aggravation and the stress that you will get further down the line. Trust me, it's one of the best investments you'll ever make in your business, guys.
Well, to put it in perspective, to give you an idea, my website was down for about 2 months, the peak time of the year. Now, I was an average kind of probably bringing in 10 to 15 inquiries per week. Most of them were converting to usually either a one-day sale, a one-day tour, or some of them were kind of multi-day tours.
Yeah.
Had I had the availability for all the dates that I could have potentially lost, we're talking about $20,000, $30,000 worth of tours, realistically. Yeah. And obviously, I can't guarantee that's exactly what happened, but it could have been because of that time. But hey, who knows? How do you put a price on that? When you look at $2 or $3 for something more, you know, one tour would have covered that for the whole year, you know. So
yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to put things in. Everybody needs to put things in perspective, James, don't they?
Absolutely.
You know, they'll try and penny pinch on probably the most important thing in your business,
yeah,
which is the foundation of your business. But then they'll go and spend a few $100s on
a logo or something. Oh, you froze up a little bit, Tony.
Software tool or a product that they'll never use.
Yeah. And that's something.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now, Tony.
As I say, now, okay.
Yeah, so as I say, it's for users that never kind of heard that properly. Tony saying, like, you know, you would have spent money on a gadget, a tool, or something like that you'll never use in your business. When ultimately, the basics are solid foundations. great hosting. You know, then start you building a WordPress site somewhere along the line, because again, multiple plugins, multiple options, easiest way to rank, you know.
And let's
and
put it in
then
perspective, James. Let's put it in perspective. Let's say the difference between one package A and package B was $3 a month. Let's put it in perspective, $36 a year, guys.
nothing.
And
Absolutely
you know
nothing.
something? We do this in our hosting business, and I know most other providers do the same. If you pay annually, you get 2 months free. You only pay for 10 months.
Tony, what do I love? Free!
Okay, so we're at the point, guys, when I just want to go through some key factors you need to consider before you buy your hosting. Yeah. Once I've gone through these, even if you've got hosting currently or you're looking to buy hosting, please use these factors, take them into consideration before you buy, or before you upgrade, or if you're considering moving provider. Yeah. So number one is, and this is a big one, James. Well, they're all these are critical, but number one, reliability. Check out the uptime of the provider.
How would you do that, Tony?
There's free resources online, James, but they have to, I think legally, each hosting provider has to state it on their website.
Right, okay.
So if you look in the footer or whatever, it'll tell you what the uptime stats are, yeah?
Yeah. And again, this is something, I know this is a completely different product, but you know, how many times have you looked at upgrading your internet, your Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
or, you know, your broadband?
Because
and say,
it's
it's 100 gazillion speeds, but reality average is this, you know, so just make sure that you're not buying into the hype and you're actually reading the facts.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy of what we're talking about, exactly. But yeah, reliability, absolutely so important, guys. Who do you want to host your websites with, or your software, or whatever it is you want to host? Do you want to host it with a provider that's got a 91% uptime rate, or a provider that's got 99.9% uptime rate?
He's the guy. That's the one.
Yeah. And reliability and uptime is just one of them, one part of that, James. Yeah, but it's so important, and it is a consideration you need to be looking at before you purchase your hosting. Yeah. Number two, some people would say the most important. I think it's the least important: price.
Yeah. At one point, Tony, I'll be honest with you, price was the most important thing, because for me, again, I was starting with limited resources, and I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners will be the same.
Yeah.
But if you can just take a step back from the price and just look at, if you're going just a little bit more, you're going to get so much more in certain places. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the cheapest is going to be the worst product, but you need to make sure that it's ticking all the boxes that you need for your business going forward, and then make sure that you're buying the right thing for you. Reliability, uptime is key, you know?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And of course, everyone's got a budget, James. I appreciate that, especially when you're first starting out. So, but what I'm saying is, if you do need to go for the cheapest option initially, as soon as you can afford more, move to a more reliable provider.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I would say avoid that if you can at all costs. But if you absolutely must, because you really are on a minimum budget, yeah. In fact, you know what I would say, James, if someone's in that situation?
Wait, that's what I would say.
I would say go and build your site with a free host that's got with a builder that's got free hosting, like Wix or something like that.
Right.
Until you can afford some decent hosting.
Because Wix and all that have got decent hosting. Yeah.
Well, they provide all the hosting, James.
Yeah.
So you can have a free website that's hosted for free. I mean, it's not great for SEO.
No, it's not.
Or anything like that. But if you just want an online business card to represent your business that people can go to see your products and services,
then it's there.
It's there. You can do it for free. Better that than getting really cheap hosting and getting your site hacked, isn't it?
Oh, well, getting hacked is just the worst, Tony. I mean, honestly, and I can't say that enough, guys, because ultimately, see, when you're hacked, it's like somebody coming in and breaking into your house, going through your toys, going through all your stuff, and it feels quite horrible because they've now got in and they're now putting, and it's not just, think of this even at a deeper level. They're kind of, right, okay, so let's say, for talking sake, the most extreme situation, you're a children's entertainer or something like that. Someone hacks it and then puts Russian porn on your children's entertainment's website. Now, that's the most extreme example. Someone that's looking to entertain their kids and they end up on a porn site. Can you imagine that person's credibility? That goes through the floor. Do you think that person will ever even contact that person again? Never. Do you think they'll tell 100 people that they know, or don't go near him? I tried to book a thing and it was a porn site, you know? So obviously they know that you're not that guy, but at the end of the day, they could have been sitting there with their children looking, say, oh, we're going to go and look at Uncle Billy's magic show. And it's not Uncle Billy, it's Magic Mike that comes up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. It's credibility thing as well,
yeah,
with your
absolutely.
customers, isn't it, or potential customers. But number 3 of the key factors is security. And you've just highlighted why it's so important. How many people check their website every day?
I don't even do that, Tony. I'll be honest with you.
I'll tell you what happens, James, generally. Business owners don't even know they've been hacked
until somebody tells them, the customer,
someone that's visited the site, a potential customer or an existing customer, tell them. So what you've said just then is very relevant and valid. Yeah. You know, it. And guys, when James is saying that these hackers put these sort of things on your site, trust me, they do.
They do, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
So, you know, it completely destroys your credibility in your industry, in your niche, with your potential potential new customers, and obviously your existing customers. And again, because you don't visit your website every day, you won't even know about it generally.
Yeah. And what happens if, just imagine this scenario, Tony, what happens if that's been like that for 3 or 4 weeks and it just takes that one person to actually reach out and contact you?
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Again, so you're spot on, James. My friend I was telling you about that had the 50 websites hacked.
Yeah.
He didn't know anything about it until his leads, that he was getting the leads through from the website network, until all the leads stopped coming through.
Was that right?
And he thought, oh, that's funny. Because he knew, because he was an established business for quite a number of years, he knew roughly on a weekly basis how many leads he got through, you know, to sell to his customers. And he noticed that the leads were dropping down in volume and down. Then he was getting none through. And that prompted him to go and check a couple of his websites. And that's when he noticed. And there was weeks that passed before he realized that.
So how much would that have cost him?
A lot of money.
Idea,
a lot of money. Yeah. Because the leads he was generating are in the financial services niche. And
they're expensive.
And each lead he was selling was worth about £50, I think.
Wow. Wow. So he's lost a shed load of money.
He lost a shed load of money, yeah.
Wow. It's horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think the hackers bothered about that?
The hackers only interested in what they get from the porn sites. You know, it's crazy. Or whatever they're doing.
Okay. Let's move on.
Okay.
Features that are offered compared to other providers in the plans. Very important. We all want value for money, James, don't we?
I love value for money, Tony.
If you've got 2 providers that are offering virtually identical packages, but as an example, let's say package A, let's say package A offers free SSL certificates, and package B doesn't, but it's exactly the same cost per month. Who are you going to go with?
SSL?
The one with the free SSLs, exactly. Or another example, package A offers free backups, but package B doesn't, and it's the same price each month or annually. Who are you going to go with?
Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
No. The one, yeah. Free backups. Sorry.
Yeah, that's not who you're going to go. That's who you're going to call, James.
Oh, right. Oh, I was close.
But I think you get the point I'm trying to make here, yeah? You've got to compare different providers and the packages to get your best bang for your buck, yeah?
Of course.
It goes without saying. And trust me, guys, if you don't think free SSLs or free backups, or a free CDN, which is a content distribution network, which just helps make your site and its content load faster globally.
I was going to say, I'm confused. What's CDN?
Content distribution network, James. It's basically just a way of hosting all the media on your websites, so it loads faster globally wherever your site's being served in the world. Yeah.
Right.
But all those things can cost extra.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get any of those as free as part of your package,
it's a win, isn't it?
It's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So compare the features offered by different providers, guys, as well as the price. Yeah. Number 5, most important one for me. Right. As I said, a lot of people would have said price. I think price is on this list I'm giving you here. Price for me is the least one. Number 5, customer service. That is the big one.
Well, I'll agree with you on that one because, as I say, for me, the company that I'm now with are awesome. And they are literally, I'll be honest with you, they make me lazy. They make me lazy because I actually, there's things that I can do and I just play stupid because I know they'll do it for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
I mean, in all fairness though, James, you are keeping them in their job doing that, aren't you? So
yeah, I am, because obviously that's right.
I mean, that's what they're there for.
They're there for that. But the way I look at it is, and it's really sneaky, but I look at them as a virtual assistant for me, because I'm paying so much per month. Why would I go and piss about and waste some of my time doing these things when I can just play dumb, send them a quick message, get them to do it? It allows me to free up my time to go and do something else. That's being clever.
Don't feel bad about that, and I'll tell you why. Because when you pay your money every month or annually or however you pay, part of what you're paying for is customer service, James.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't say you can only use customer service once a month.
Yeah.
You've got 24/7 customer service. Yeah.
Yeah, I use it.
Yes. Guys, trust me, do not underestimate the importance of this, of good customer service. It's the big one where hosting is concerned. Because trust me, if you've got a problem and you submit a support ticket, do you want a reply within an hour or even minutes, or do you want a reply 2 or 3 days later?
Well, as I say, I quite like the fact that I'm usually replied to within 10 minutes, mostly, and within 3 or 4 messages, they've got the problem sorted, resolved,
The company we mentioned earlier, James, that we both used at the beginning of our online journeys. When I had a problem with my site, put support ticket in, and I'm not even joking, you guys, when I say this, 2 weeks to respond.
What?
2 weeks to get a response.
That's insane. I mean, that's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
How can they get away with that?
I'm not being funny. It's appalling. It's not just insane. It's appalling. It's disrespectful to your customers.
Well, I was going to say to you, Tony, whether they don't have any time for you, or whether they don't have time for their customers, ultimately it's affecting your customers. Because if something's down, you can't deal with that, and you can't get back to your customer with that issue until these guys have resolved the issue that you've raised with them. So that's horrendous. And it is,
well, you end up being stuck in limbo, James.
You can't do anything. Yeah, you can't.
Because you've contacted support, it's obviously something that you need their help with, because you can't resolve it yourself. And if they're not responding,
what can you do?
What can you do?
Nothing.
You may have to go if it's really urgent, and you're losing a lot of traffic to your website and your product or your service, and it's your livelihood. You may have to go and pay, an expensive developer.
Yeah.
To look at the problem for you.
And I've had to do that in the past as well.
Please, customer service, it's the big one. Make sure that you are going with a company that is offering great customer service. And it's easy to find out with these big companies, James. Just do a search online, hosting company testimonials, hosting company feedback, whatever. Do a search for those search phrases, and you will see from the people that are using that particular business, you will see exactly what's going on with their customer service. Well, I'm not talking about the shiny testimonials on their website, James, that are cherry picked. I'm talking about the real users with real comments. Yeah.
I'm actually doing a Google search. What do you think of XYZ? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
As I say, for me, I mean, this company would have to do something catastrophic for me to leave them now, because and incidentally, this is the most expensive hosting package I have ever paid for, and I mean ever. It's, to give you an idea, it's probably 5 times what I used to pay.
Right.
But you know what? It's absolutely worth it, because when I look at how many times I get them to do things for me, how much would that cost me on a VA alone?
Yeah.
And when I contact them, they're so quick to respond. How quick is how can you put a price on that? You know, so yeah,
I don't think you can, James, because it's peace of mind, isn't it?
absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
knowing that if you've got a problem, you can open a support ticket and very quickly you're going to get help.
Yeah, definitely.
And your business can get back online, you know, if your site's down or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as we've established in another episode, you know, WordPress powers over 70% of all the websites on the planet.
Which I think is incredible. I wasn't aware of that. I knew it was
And,
obviously
and,
a big
and WordPress is fantastic, guys. But the one thing, it's all the plugins are constantly updated by the different developers. All the themes, the generic themes, are constantly updated by the developers. The core is constantly updated a few times a year by the core development team.
Mm-hmm.
And inevitably, when you've got all those development teams updating everything, sometimes things clash and sometimes things break, James. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It's nobody's fault. It's just software.
This just sometimes
some software might become slightly incompatible with WordPress core, etc.
Yeah.
Or with another plugin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not usually so much it becomes incompatible with WordPress,
It's usually a class of plugins.
This plugin would work. This works fine with WordPress, and this one works fine with WordPress, but it won't work fine with that in WordPress with that other product. Yeah. And again,
when you have that problem and you get the white screen of death, or you can't log into your WordPress admin area, to be able to open a support ticket and get a quick response, you know, it gives you peace of mind, James. It's as simple as that.
I would say so.
And that moves us on to number 6 in my key factors to consider list, which is backups, guys. I can't say this enough. Back up your sites, whether you do it manually or whether you pay a few extra dollars each month to automate the process with your service provider. Do one of the two things. Mm-hmm. Because if the worst case scenario happens and your site gets hacked and it's unrecoverable, you've got a backup there that you can use to put it back the way it was before there was a problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is something kind of, when you think about it, if you're a plumber, you don't just go out with one wrench. If you're a joiner, you don't just go out with one drill. You go out with 2 or 3 drills and 4 batteries. You know, if in your real life business, your real life job, you would always have backup for the. And sometimes, if you're like me and you, Tony, you've got backup for the backup. You know, I mean, like if you think about, I mean, me and my entertainment industry, yourself, how many times did you take? How many? If you were using certain electrical cables, you would always have 3 or 4 of them spare, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, because it just makes sense. Why wouldn't you do the same with your online business? Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that you don't need to have backups there. You know, you don't need to be an expert.
James, ultimately, it's common sense, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But sometimes, again, I think people just think if they're coming online, oh, it's all right, it's online, everything's great online, everything works. And it's really not the case. And if you do that, you're going to be left high and dry very quickly.
I would say to our viewers and listeners, get out of this mindset that you're never going to have a problem. You know,
get into the mindset that you're going to have a problem.
That you are going to have a problem at some point, but you're going to preempt that problem.
Yeah. Because that's the best mindset, without a doubt.
It is, absolutely, especially where hosting is concerned. Because if you go into buying your hosting naively, trust me, you will pay the price for that somewhere down the line. And I promise you guys, having gone through this myself, and I'm speaking for James, I'm sure he'll reiterate, you don't want the stress. Because your stress levels within minutes will go from 0 to 100.
But you've got to remember, I mean, guys, think about it. If you've got a business online, it's an online shop, right? If you can imagine, if you've got you open your store in a busy high street in a busy town, you know, and then someone then just comes up and starts digging up the pavement and puts a kind of do not pass here right round your door. How's that going to affect you? Can you imagine? You would be going crazy. You'd be like, listen, you need to move this. You've got to kind of do this. You've got to work around it. You've got to create some sort of way into our store. And this is what you're technically thinking you should be thinking about virtually.
Yeah, totally. And we're not trying to scare our viewers and listeners to death here. We're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to make you aware that you need to preempt these problems.
Absolutely.
To save you the stress, to save you the pain further down the line. Yeah.
100%.
So, you know, do your research, guys. I can't hammer this home enough. Do your research, compare providers, do your due diligence. Yeah. Do you want to hear number 7 on the list, James?
Go on, Tony. Give me it.
On this.
Lucky number
Control
7.
Panel.
What's that, sorry?
Which control panel?
Yeah, so that's a funny one because obviously everybody's aware, well, everybody hopefully is aware, and WordPress is big on cPanel, but the company that I use don't use cPanel. Yep. They've got their own panel.
Yeah, I know the company you use and you don't use cPanel. We don't use cPanel in our hosting business either. Let's explain about cPanel, guys. Is probably, as James said, the most recognized and known control panel out there on the planet, on the planet. What they did a few years ago, I think it changed ownership, James. And originally, cPanel, it didn't cost the hosting providers anything; it was free.
Right. Okay.
But then I think the business changed hands, and they started charging for cPanel,
which ultimately puts the cost up, the hosting up to everybody else, making it not as financially viable as other options.
Yeah. So the control panel we use in our hosting business does everything cPanel does. It's virtually in its functionality, it offers everything cPanel does.
I was going to say virtually it's cPanel, but just doesn't say cPanel.
Yeah, but without the cost, James. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to give you an idea of cost, guys, and I think where certainly the vast majority of hosting providers are unfair here, is that if you particularly want cPanel as your control panel because you know it's what you're used to, you can't buy one license, James, even if you've only got one site. You have to buy it in bundles.
All right, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I think the majority of providers, you have to buy a minimum of 5 licenses, I think.
Wow. That's a bit extreme, isn't it?
Because of the costs incurred by the hosting providers, by the cPanel, the company behind cPanel,
right?
It's not worth their while to sell
for less
license. So I think they do it in blocks of 5. Yeah. So you've got one website, but if you want cPanel, you've got to pay for 5 cPanel licenses. Doesn't quite sound fair to the end user, that, guys, does it?
No, it really doesn't, buddy. No, that's not really cool.
So again, this is something else to take into consideration, guys. You know, as well as, you know, comparing the features that are offered in the different plans. You know, yeah, SSLs are important, backups are important, content distribution network are important, your resource limits are important, but also the control panel is important because if you've used cPanel forever, you know, during your whole online career, you wouldn't really want to start learning something new all over again, James, would you?
No, definitely not. No, that's the thing, isn't it? You familiarity, you know what I mean, when you're familiar with something.
If you don't want to pay extra for cPanel, then look at a provider that offers, you know, effectively a cPanel clone, yeah?
Yeah.
That way, you've got the familiarity of cPanel, but without the cost.
Yeah. And the one that I use is exactly like that. You know what I mean? It's everything cPanel does, really. Yeah. It just doesn't have that branding. And again, I suppose it's like a lot of people, you need a control panel without a doubt. But again, it's like WordPress. You're not WordPress, Microsoft. You know, you've got Windows installed in your computer. You need an operating system. You need it to function, but it doesn't necessarily need to be Microsoft. It can be Linux. It could be something else, you know?
Yeah, and again with the control panel, I mean, and again this relates to the features offered in the different packages as well, James. Look at what one-click apps are included. Can you install WordPress with one click, or do you have to manually download WordPress and manually upload it to your hosting, which is an absolute pain, James, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got one click, and it is literally one click and away you go, and it's amazing. You know,
with our hosting, I'm pretty sure it's the same with yours. You've probably got 60 or 70 one-click installs for all the most favorite.
Yeah,
you know,
everything
software
on it.
packages on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed with it. I mean,
don't get me wrong, guys. A lot of the top providers will have that, those one-click app options available, depending on what package you buy. But again, it's something that's important to take into consideration, James, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Why go to the hassle of having to manually download things and upload things if you don't have to? So one-click installs are important, especially if it's a software like WordPress that you are installing on a regular basis. Yeah.
And guys, think about this as well. The most valuable commodity on the planet, it's not money, it's not gold, it's not Bitcoin, it's your time. Because ultimately, we want to get you to the stage where your time is the most valuable thing, because the biggest billionaire on the planet would quite happily, if the billionaire was 90 years of age, would quite happily give you half his wealth if he could get 10 more years of your life. If you could say, listen, I'm 47, right, but I'll give you 10 years of my life so you can have my 10 years, so I will live 10 years less. And they would give you that money like that because you can't trade time for money. If you're trading time for money, you'll never be able to become hugely financially wealthy. But if you can then start looking at your time as the most valuable commodity you've got, be respectful of your time. So many people are out there stealing your time constantly, and you give them it freely because it doesn't cost you anything. But believe me when I tell you, it costs you more than you'll ever realize. So start thinking smart, start thinking how you can make your time more efficient so that you can eventually claim back your time to enjoy it with your family, doing whatever you want to do in life, not just be working. If you're constantly working all the time, what the hell's the point? That makes sense, Tony?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, James, time is the one thing that we can never get back.
Never get back. Never. Once it's gone, it's gone, and you can always make more money. I say that really and I don't mean that to be blasé, because there's some people watching and listening right now, and they are probably absolutely struggling and would say, yeah, you know what, I'd give 10 years of my life right now for $500.
But I think time, what you're saying, is relevant to what we're talking about where time's concerned. Is that, do you want to be spending a full day of your time fixing a web hosting problem because your provider's got crap support? Or would you rather spend an extra few dollars each month where you've got top level support and they fix your problem very quickly?
No brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Absolutely.
No brainer.
So moving on to the final key factor to consider before buying hosting, James. Number 8 is scalability. Again, very overlooked. People look at the here and now. They don't look at the what if in the future. What if I need this in the future? What if I need that in the future? Is the hosting you're going to buy, or the hosting that you currently have, guys, look at that. Is it scalable? If you start getting more traffic to your website or to your e-commerce store or to your offer, can your current hosting package or the new hosting package you're thinking of buying, can that cope with that? Can you upgrade very easily? See what I mean, James?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was one of the big decisions I made when buying the hosting that I've got, because I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing right now was going to be enough for what I needed. And I looked, and they did have all the options that I was looking for. And again, because their customer service is incredible, I asked, I said, listen, I might be doing this in the future. I might be doing that in the future. I might be selling my own. I might be selling hosting myself in the future. Is that an option? And all these kind of things come into play. And without a doubt, my guys ticked every box I needed, hence the reason. And again, I was super selective on this time buying it because I had made so many mistakes in the past, you know. So
yeah, and we all live and learn, James, don't we? You know, we none of us get it perfect straight off. But again, this entire episode is about us passing on our experience of hosting to our viewers and listeners, so they don't make the same mistakes. Yeah, they don't have the same bad experience, all those, you know, issues with being hacked and everything that we've experienced ourselves in our online journeys.
Yeah, I think this could possibly be one of the most valuable episodes we've ever done.
I think so. I think it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, as I say, I'll reiterate,
super important.
It's not the sexiest topic. I know that. We're very aware of that, but ultimately it may be the one that will save your business.
Guys, if you don't think an increase in traffic makes a difference to your website performance, and it can even take your website down, I'll tell you a little story. Before I had my hosting business, James, and by the way, guys, I practice what I preach. Everything I've got online in my business is on my own hosting now. I use my own hosting for my own sites, my own softwares, everything. Yeah. Because you've got to practice what you preach, haven't you, James? It'd be absolutely hypocritical of me to
buy my hosting, you know, oh no, I'm not going to use it.
Buy my hosting and not use it myself. Yeah. I'm not that sort of guy.
No.
So I practice what I preach.
Definitely not.
But this goes back a few years before I had that hosting business. Yeah. During a launch, James, you know yourself that you can have a big spike in traffic.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So during one launch, we didn't anticipate the traffic levels that we got, and it took the entire membership area down. Oh. Nobody was getting their login credentials, yeah, because of that, because everything worked via API. Normally, everything running smoothly. After purchase, the customer receives their login details to the members area via email. But because it took the we had that many buyers, it took the membership, and we didn't anticipate that because it was a popular offer. It took down the members area website.
Now, think of how
let me finish.
Time. Wow.
We had to create nearly 2,000 members area accounts manually.
That was what I was thinking.
We had to get extra support staff in, James, to cope with it. It took us 4 days to get everyone their access, I think.
And more to the point, Tony, the cost of that could have been it could have absolutely destroyed the profit in that launch.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, we were able, because we had good hosting, we were able to get it resolved with the good customer support. I'll emphasize that pretty quickly. But even so, in that downtime of an hour or two, and it was right at the beginning of the launch where everybody's purchasing, that's the problem we had to fix during that 2 or 3 hour window. After that, everything was back up. We increased the resources on the members area and everything was running smoothly again. But that just highlights the impact extra traffic can have on your server, guys. Yeah. So lesson learned after that, and again, this was before I had my own hosting business. If you want to look at a top company, guys, look at Liquid Web. Excellent company, excellent customer service. We used them for launches after that. And what I like about Liquid Web, James, is that if you're getting spikes in traffic, you can increase your resources on the fly.
Right.
So you can scale your resources for the launch period and pay extra for that period.
Right.
For the extra resources. And then after the launch, you can scale it back down to your normal package.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Complete flexibility. And I would say anybody that is, you know, going to be doing product launches, unless you've got a dedicated server where you can, you know, make sure you've got those resources yourself, Liquid Host is one to look at, guys, because you can really got that flexibility in scaling your resources on the fly. Yeah.
Wow. But the thing is, I mean, that's incredible. It took 4 days and obviously a lot of man hours to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I say, I think it was just for the members area being down for that 2 or 3 hours, I think it was. It took us 4 days to fix the problem.
Wow. And think about, obviously, we're not talking about hiring 1 or 2 support members there.
No, I think we had to get half a dozen additional support staff in.
So 6 members of staff getting full-time income
to sort it out,
days.
because you've got to remember to create the members area account, James, you've got to go through all the sales data. We don't know who's not got the members area details.
Yeah, so you then need to go through and absolutely.
So we're having to say to everybody, open a support ticket. And not because of the difference in time zones, not everybody does that, of course, yeah? So anyway, the good news is we got it resolved, because I'm big on looking after customers, James, as you know.
Yeah.
We got it resolved in the end. It was just an unfortunate situation, but again, we learned from that, and thankfully, touch wood, it's never happened again, and it never will.
Thankfully.
But I think, that highlights, guys, why number 8 in the key factors to consider before buying your hosting, scalability, is so important. Yeah. And the one thing I want to emphasize to close the show, James, today, close this episode, is do your research before buying your hosting, guys. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Spend the time now on doing that research before buying. Don't be spending the time on fixing the problems later on because you couldn't be bothered. Yeah.
Yeah. And to kind of just even thinking about that one there alone, I mean, like, had you had Liquid Host and you upscaled, it might have cost you an extra $100 for that small
Liquid
fee.
Web it is, James.
Liquid Web, sorry.
Yeah.
It would maybe have cost maximum maybe $100 to upscale for that period.
Yeah, it was compared to the hassle, it was a minuscule amount of money. Yeah,
crazy. Tony, I'll be honest with you, it's been an interesting and eye-opening episode for me personally.
Yeah.
As I say, I hope, guys, you've hung in there. I know this one's been quite a long one, but it's certainly been one that will absolutely save your business life at a point. If you can implement the strategies that Tony has shared with you today, and obviously you can understand and relate to my experiences and how it went horribly wrong for me and how it's went horribly wrong for Tony, I guarantee this has probably been the best hour you've spent in your business. So
it's one of our best episodes, James, this.
Without a doubt.
And I hope it's been informative and valuable for our viewers and listeners. I really do.
Yeah, me too. Tony, anything else to add before we go?
No, just to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us today. We truly appreciate you guys. Again, any comments, any questions about hosting, feel free to comment below the video. We'd love to hear from you. We do respond personally, by the way. It's not some bot.
Absolutely.
And again, I'm going to put some recommended resources in the recommended resources area, of course, on our website. So make sure you go and check them out. Yeah.
And that's those2imguys.com. And as I say, we look forward to seeing you on an episode very, very soon. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This one, honestly, see if you've kind of nodded off halfway through, go back and listen again or go back and watch it. Honestly, can't reiterate, please get the right hosting. You wouldn't go and spend 100,000, 200,000, $500,000 on building a house, and you would build it on sand or you would build it on the grass without putting the right foundations in. If you don't have the right hosting, you don't have the right foundations, and your business will go like the Leaning Tower of Pisa at best, and if not, crumble more likely. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you all again on another episode of Those Two IM Guys. See you all later, guys. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.